Hello friends, in this presentation we will try to understand the integration of renewable energy sources under the subject smart grid under the heading microgrids. Now when we are talking about renewable energy resources, two pictures which is very clear into our mind is the solar and the wind energy. So when we talk about the integration, we basically mean about connecting together all the available energy, the renewable energies together. Now, obviously, we are trying to connect different types of energies available, and obviously, all these energies will have different type of different magnitude, will have different amplitude of production, will have different frequencies and voltages. So there are some issues in interconnection of it. So let's try to understand what are those difficulties and what are the challenges and why we need this integration of renewable energy resources. So first of all, let's try to understand what the drivers for renewable energy integration, that is the key factors why we need this integration to happen. First thing is, since we are trying to improve the climate, we are trying to protect the environment, so we are trying to move from fossil fuel usage towards the renewable energy usage. So the first driving factor is the stability, providing stability to the climate. The second factor is obviously we need to keep the demand up to the growing population. We need to have sufficient amount of energy available for every single person on the globe. So the second driving factor is we need to have ample of energy available in order to suffice the energy availability to the people. Third point is still we have a huge amount of population, that is 1.6 billion people who are still don't have electricity. So we need to bring them electricity. So if we are able to harness the renewable energy resources, probably we will be able to give or supply energy to these 1.6 billion people. The next driving factor is to ensure there is a stable supply and the energy across all the nation is very securely transferred and there is no problem occurring during the power transfer from the generation to the consumers. The next part is transporting electricity towards to long distances from where it is generated to where it is used. So obviously it is very difficult and it is known to all that transmission definitely will have losses since we are transporting some energy from one point to another. So there will be some ISR losses or the loss in the reactive power or many other kind of losses which occur during the transmission. So, in order to limit this, let's try to understand that in order to have less transmission line, and if it is possible to have a generating unit which is nearby, so that could be useful in reducing those transmission lines. So that's why we are moving towards integration of renewable energy resources. Then we are ensuring the reliability to the consumers, that is 24 into 7 and a good power quality supply to the consumers. So these are few of the factors which are responsible or which are driving us to move towards the renewable integration of the renewable energy resources. There are other factors as well. Next, let's try to see the major public policy drivers. What are the major public policy drivers for renewable energy integration? The first thing, obviously, which we have discussed earlier also, and that is related to the environment, and that is decarbonization. So, if we need to address the global climatic change and the worldwide environmental phenomena which is occurring right now, so this has become a very burning issue which has made us to move towards a renewable energy usage. So, it's the biggest driving factor which we have into the picture and which is a very major public policy. Next part is expanding energy access. Now, what does this mean? What is expanding energy access? Because of the growing demand, the demand is growing, it is very rapid, and since the energy demand is rapid, the developing countries are developed just because of the availability of energy with them. So, having energy is another a very important factor to make any country progressive and any country to as a developed nation. So therefore, with a growing demand of the energy, we need to keep with the time, and we need to have ample of energy available to meet the demand. Third driving factor, that is the public policy, that is energy security. Now it's very easy to understand what is energy security. Nowadays, since we are using fossil fuels, so fossil fuel prices generally go up and down. It is fluctuating. There might be scarcity of fossil fuels, so there might be trouble that we are not able to run the generating plants. There are some problems which we have, and that's why the energy is not very secure. There is always a feeling of there might be some problem in the provision of energy which we have. So if we want to eliminate this energy security, and if we have wind or sun and the waves, so these are the renewable energy resources, obviously they don't need any fuel. So there is no cost of increment of the fuel cost of these particular energy resources. Yes, there might be variation in the generation of all these resources, but yes, there is no cost, and since there is no cost, so therefore there will be no problem with availability of the energy to us. So we will be feeling more secure towards the energy being provided to us. Next, moving on to the challenges, we have seen the factors which were driving us, which were forcing us to move towards it. But there are again some challenges due to which we are unable to completely integrate the renewable energy resources. So first point is non-controllable variability. Now, what is this non-controllable variability? Now, everybody is aware that renewable energy resources are not the constant output sources. They always vary. For example, let's say solar energy. The intensity of the sun is not always the same. Let's imagine about the wind energy. Again, the same point. The wind also doesn't flow at the same speed, at the same direction, at the same place. It is also a variable quantity. So, because of this variable nature of this renewable energy resources, the power output is always getting affected. Now, if the power output is getting affected, we will have fluctuations. And if there is a fluctuation, we need some additional energy to balance this demand, to balance this fluctuation into the grid. So this also comes with the problem of frequency regulation and the voltage regulation and the voltage support. So non-controllable variability basically have this kind of problem. Next, let's move on to the partial unpredictability. Now, what is partial unpredictability? It's very easy to understand. We are not able to predict the availability of the power, that is the wind and the sunlight. We are not sure whether the wind will be running at the same speed at the same place, and we are also not sure about the sunlight, whether it will be producing the same amount of energy which was produced yesterday or a week yesterday or a week before. It's very difficult to predict. And since we are not able to predict, the inability to predict creates a problem for us, and thus we are not able to schedule the generation. And if we are not able to schedule the generation, we are not able to manage the grid properly. So therefore, the unpredictable nature of this renewable energy resources makes it difficult to integrate altogether. Moreover, if we even try to do so, if we try to predict the generation, and if we try to somehow make it with another generating unit, then again the cost of this function that increases will be definitely coming on to the customers again. So there is some issues with unpredictability. Again, if we are trying to manage this weather and generation forecasting technologies, if we are having such technologies available, then yes, we will be able to forecast well, and we will be able to predetermine the amount of energy available in the next day or the next week or the next month. But again, this is something which is a debatable issue, uh, because you cannot always be 100% accurate with the prediction. So still, predictability, the predictability of the resources of the renewable energies is again an issue, and because of which the integration is little tedious job. Next is location dependence. Again, it's a very basic thing which everybody is aware of. If we want to have a wind energy setup, or if we need a wind generator, then that has to be at a particular location where there is a sufficient amount of wind blowing. Similar is the case with the solar energy. Now, solar energy has also to be implanted at the place where you are getting sufficient amount of sunlight with proper inclination. Moreover, the distance or the location at which these wind and the solar energy plants are located has to be nearby the consumer site. Just because if they are far away, then again there is huge losses in transmission. So then again it's of no use. Whereas if you talk about the coal or the gas or uranium, these all can be transported to the generating site. So if you have a generating site nearby to your city, then also it can work. The raw material or the fuel can be transported to that particular location, which doesn't happen with the renewable energy resources. So generation must always be co-located. You almost all are aware that it should be as close as possible because transmission always have huge losses. So if we want to have a new transmission capacity for this additional transferring of energy from wind solar to the customers, it's a burden to the system. And since it is a burden, so obviously this will not be taken ahead, and so thus there is a local dependence problem with the integration of renewable energy sources. So these problems basically have to be looked upon, and then only we can move towards the integration of renewable energy resources. I hope you would have got the gist of this particular presentation. Thank you very much.